See if it works.
Is this yours?
No, this is his.
Oh.
Hey everyone, I hope you are having a good evening. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about this upcoming 4th of July season. I really hope you are all excited for the nice, refreshing, warm weather that is coming. While this is a fun and exciting time of year, I had to wonder all the things that could go on around the time of lighting fireworks, and I thought in the event that you ever decide to participate in a large gathering to celebrate with fireworks, what some of the dangerous things to look out for may be. One of these things was on my mind for quite a while now, and it got to my attention, which is why I wanted to do a video on it. In the event that you ever come across or hear about something called a sparkler bomb, a fun and loud homemade firework that can make a lot of firework goers happy due to the great explosion they produce. In this video, I am not going to be promoting such an item to create or use, but rather giving you some insight on why I would not recommend lighting off such a thing during the 4th of July season, due to a couple reasons I will cover. I'm certainly getting ahead of myself by saying too much already, but it should be nothing short of imaginable in my introduction to this video that any sort of homemade firework or unspecialized knowledge going into a piece of contraption like this would definitely not be a good idea, and I'd highly advise a different avenue to engage with a loud explosion. First off, what is a sparkler bomb? Chances are you have probably heard of one before, and they are super popular during the 4th of July season, especially around large gatherings or crowds. It's even possible that at some point during any of these events, that upon hanging out with a group of friends, you have even witnessed the power of one of these devices. When people who are into loud fireworks get together around the 4th, sparkler bombs are always a go-to, simply because of how easy they are to assemble and set off. The power of the explosion produced by a sparkler bomb is so incredible, and I have to admit, after seeing one of these in person myself, it is a rather encouraging profession, until you learn about just how dangerous they really are. As you can tell by the name, sparkler bombs are literally made with sparklers, just like you can find at any celebration, supermarket, or fireworks store. They are assembled with a bundle of sparklers tightly taped together, and the general rule is the more sparklers taped together, the larger the explosion will be. What makes a sparkler bomb loud is determined usually by one main thing, such as the pressure buildup or expanding net force in the device until the casing breaks and the elastic force gives way. This property is the same for any sort of deflagrant-based explosive, such as a half-stick, M80, or even something as simple as a party balloon just before it is about to pop. The reason why sparkler bombs blow up isn't due to a bunch of sparklers being lit off plainly, but it is rather due to the confinement created around them, such as using duct tape, electrical tape, or some other kind of medium, in any case giving the device a restrictive enclosure so that upon ignition, a tremendous amount of force is required to break the confinement, resulting in a loud boom. As stated earlier, sparkler bombs are nothing short of impressive, but impose severe consequences if used and something were to go wrong. You are never safe when lighting a sparkler bomb. The reason for this is simply due to the fragments of the sparklers themselves, and you see, the types of sparklers required to build a sparkler bomb are not of wood handles like something of the pink and yellow festive paper wrapped sparklers that you may have seen, but rather they require sparklers with metal aluminum handles seen on the smaller gray sparklers, which burn a flaky yellow color and sometimes a sort of reddish color. Unfortunately, the best sparklers that perform well require these sparklers, which use the metal handles, and since the powder isn't scraped off and extracted from the handles are not disposed of, and the pointy metal skewers are still contained in the confinement. Due to this being the case, there are severe consequences, which we will be covering next. Once the explosion occurs, you are going to find that the metal handles of the sparklers do not stay in place, but instead, these metal pointy skewers that were once inside the sparkler bomb are now rapidly turned into bullets, into metallic flying skewers, just like at the speed of a bullet. You can only imagine that if something like this were to go south, it would go south quick, since this is the case where the outrunnable fragments are going to make their way towards any object the sparkler bomb sends them flying towards. This can obviously be as bad as hitting something like a mound of dirt, or, well, you guessed it, anybody standing too close. Of course, the fragments within the sparkler bomb are the worst potential accident to consider, but depending on the location you decide to set off one of these devices, you could also have noise complaints, and if any sort of sheriff or officer decides to show up, well, then you could be cited, and the rule of thumb is, whenever you have something you want to experiment with, the neighborhood is simply not the best place to do it. Now obviously that sounds like a handful, but stuff like this that gets a lot of people happy when celebrating with fireworks around the 4th of July comes with a cost. And it will not just be the law dictating what you do with something like a sparkler bomb, but any accidental injuries taking place. Obviously, the intent for harm is out of the question, but have any accident happen along the way, instead of the sparklers hitting the dirt or the side of the fence, it could be any delicate parts on your body, making something as dangerous but yet fun and exciting simply not worth the trouble. I always loved the idea of sparkler bombs growing up, but as time went on, I knew there were definitely better avenues, which is why I thought it was for the better to refrain from something like this, simply because sparkler bombs are just too dangerous to use in any general celebratory scenario, especially within any crowd or gathering, just for a loud and applauded boom. And I would seriously recommend that if you want to have a big explosion, that you may want to resort to something like tannerite up in the mountains or desert far, far away from people or houses, where it is 100% legal and you can mix tannerite to the brim at your heart's content. Obviously, I know the scope of this video is about sparkler bombs, but just to not crush your hopes and dreams, here are some of my suggestions. Another suggestion would be to head up to your local Indian reservation around the season and request some of the loudest fireworks they can sell to you. That way you do not have to worry about metal fragments flying towards you contained in the fireworks. Now, let's say that you have already assembled a sparkler bomb for the upcoming 4th of July, or you happen to have a few lying around ready to set off. While you are probably already aware by now of the physical dangers present, there are a few things off to the side you should definitely know. First off, depending on your state laws, it can be a felony to have any assembled device that is considered an explosive in possession. Obviously, you can do the research yourself to find out which states ban possession of homemade things, but right beside state laws, there are also federal laws regarding homemade explosives or fireworks. Keep in mind, federal laws are way more serious than state laws, and I should probably note at this time in the video, I am not a lawyer, so please do not quote me for any of the following. That being said, federal law dictates that any explosive that is to be made should be created only and only at the shoot site, not before undergoing transportation. You see, it is against federal law to move any explosive from point A to point B in your car or vehicle, and this is why it is better if you are going to use anything like a sparkler bomb to have property and set off the device where you created it in a big open area, far away and open, clear from other houses. This way you will be out of the harm's way with the ATF, and you can see very quickly that this agency will not take this very big into consideration unless you transport the explosive in your vehicle. Other than just transportation laws, secondly, when dealing with explosives, it is also illegal to store explosives. What this means is if you do not have an FEL or federal explosives license, they must be registered. Otherwise, you must, and I repeat, must set off the device the second you create it out in the open area where it is legal and your state does not prohibit it. Well, at this point in the video, this is certainly a handful, but it is also very valuable information that I would have otherwise very much enjoyed passing down, so I hope that really helps you. Be sure to be safe out there this 4th of July season, and this here concludes my little video about sparkler bombs. I sure hope that you learned a few things once again, and be sure to check out some of my other videos, such as what the difference is between firecrackers and dynamite. That was a fun one. I am certainly praying this season for good weather and that you all have an excellent, fun time with fireworks. Well, stay safe out there for the upcoming 4th of July season. and I will see you next time.